Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, this legislation is a bill you saw last year. We had a lot of discussion about it. It's hands-free. It would change Virginia's texting law to make Virginia a hands-free state. As you all, I'm not sure how much of the details, again, I need to go into on this, but Virginia's gone through a couple different stages on this, starting, I believe, with Senator Cosgrove's efforts back, I want to say about 10 years ago. The state made texting while driving a secondary offense, which meant that it could be charged if it occurred in connection with another offense, but you couldn't be stopped for it. Then in 2011, there was a case in Fairfax County, which I was involved in on the civil side, not the criminal side, involving a young man named Kyle Rowley. Kyle was an 18-year-old young man who worked at he was in college, and for his summer job, he worked at a Rockets in Loudoun County, and he was driving home from work one night back to Herndon on Route 7 when his car ran out of gas coming up the hill, and he turned on his blinkers, got out of his car, and he was pushing his car off the road, and he was in the middle of that when he was struck at 60 miles an hour by another driver who had 1,000 feet of clear straight road with no vision impairments in between him and the car, and struck him at full speed without braking. Killed him instantly, and obviously caused a major wreck. When a forensic was later done of the driver's cell phone, it was shown that he'd been basically texting the entire time he'd been driving right up until the collision occurred. And when the case went to trial for reckless driving, the court found that they couldn't convict him of reckless driving because nobody could prove anything other than the texting, and we had adopted a texting statute which basically said texting was a secondary offense and can only be punished by a $250 fine. So the judge refused to convict him of reckless and or texting for that matter, and it was dismissed. Delegate Klein saw that, as did I and a lot of other people weren't happy with it, and that's what led to a bunch of legislation that year, because the case was pretty well publicized, to make texting while driving a primary offense. And so I think that was in, I want to say 2012 session, we made texting while driving a primary offense. So the problem that's arisen since then is that although we have this on the books, the existing law we have is a complete joke. If law enforcement will tell you that they can't figure out whether somebody's texting or making a phone call while they're holding their phone, and they can't convict anybody of this unless when they're stopped, they confess to it. And so we have a law in the books that's pretty much unenforceable, it's unchargeable, unenforceable if it is charged, and basically doesn't work. In addition to that, if you consider the law carefully, it's actually legal in Virginia to chase Pokemon while you're driving, or to play Angry Birds, or to order food, or to do just about anything else you can do on a phone besides send somebody a message. And the other states that have looked at this, or not all of them, but I think 16 states, either 15 or 16 states now, have decided that the best way to deal with this, both from a safety point of view and an enforcement point of view, is to draw the line at just not having the phone in your hand while your car is moving, because that's just a much clearer line. It's a lot easier for law enforcement to say there was a phone in their hand or there wasn't, as opposed to I saw him doing something with it, and I can't figure out what he was doing, but he was staring at it a lot, and he must have been texting, which is pretty much all we have right now. So the other thing I would say is, this stuff has been studied extensively. The Virginia Tech Transportation Institute has looked at it repeatedly. They found that the average text message takes the driver's road off the eyes for 4 seconds at 60 miles an hour. That's equal to a football field. And so if you have people texting while they're driving down the interstate, which when I drive down here every Sunday, I see tons of them, you have people that are driving pretty much with their eyes closed for the distance of a football field repeatedly as they go. And it's just something we need to address. Driving deaths, pedestrian deaths, cycling deaths in this country are up right now for the last 2 years. They're up year over year for the first time in 50 years. And so it's clear there's something going on out there that's causing more people to die and get hurt, even though our cars are getting safer. And most people point at texting while driving as being the problem. And so this, I think, is the way to solve it. I think there's about 6 there's a whole number of bills in the House. I think we're going to be sending a bill come over from them. I think we need our own vehicle, and I would hope the committee would pass this, and I know there's a lot of people here to speak to it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Janet Brooking with Drive Smart Virginia. We strongly support this measure. I have 3 very quick points for you. This is really gives law enforcement the tools that they need to save lives and to address this issue. The way the law is now, it's just unenforceable. So this is a good enforceable solution. That's number 1. Number 2, Virginia Tech showed that texting, which is in essence manipulating the phone, is what they're talking about, while driving increases your crash risk 2,300%, and that's right from a Virginia Tech study here in Virginia. And number 3, Virginia DMV statistics show that over the last 6 years, 1,380 people have been killed in alcohol-related fatals, and 949 people have been killed in distraction-related fatals. So we need to kind of get some parity and start looking at the issue of distraction in much the same way as drunk driving. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. My name is Kelly Suling from GEICO, and we are in support of this measure. The number 1 concern is for consumers and drivers on Virginia's roads. As Senator Saraval stated earlier, frequency and severity of accidents is up, and that not only affects people's lives, but it also affects your insurance rates, because when we have more accidents, then the rates have been increasing as well. So please support this bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, my name is Mark Peterson. I'm representing myself. I'm in favor of this bill. Just a short story. I took the bus here today, and just while I was waiting for the bus, it seemed like every other car just had the phone in their hand. So it's definitely a problem on the roads. And I'd like to say also that, phones nowadays can basically do everything by voice. You can navigate by voice, you can call people by voice, you can even text by voice. So there's really no need anymore to have the phone in your hand. Once again, I do support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Champ Early again, Virginia Bicycling Federation. We strongly support this bill. Thanks.
I'm Win Grant on behalf of the Richmond Amateur Radio Club. I'm one of the people that spammed your email boxes in the last few days because of the original provision that included amateur radio in this. But I'm here to say that this amended version that was submitted to you just a few minutes ago resolves our concerns about the bill, so I wanted to make it clear that this does resolve the amateur radio concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Steve Blackstone with the National Transportation Safety Board. NTSB, for those of you not familiar, is a federal agency that investigates major transportation accidents in all modes and makes recommendations on how to prevent their reoccurrence. I didn't come here today to testify on this bill. I wasn't aware that it was coming up. But NTSB has recommended many times that states adopt provisions prohibiting the use of any handheld device in a vehicle. We've seen far too often in many serious accidents the tragic consequences of drivers' distraction in all modes of transportation, but most especially in highway. So we would urge support of the bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Patrick Cushing with Williams Mullen, representing the AAA clubs in Virginia, AAA Mid-Atlantic and AAA Tidewater, and we support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone in the audience in opposition? All right. Hearing none. All right. There's a motion that we report the bill as the substitute as amended. All those in favor will vote aye.
9 ayes, 4 nays. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.